Notre Dame has a great history of producing solid NFL prospects on the defensive side of the football. Whether it's safeties, linebackers, or defensive tackles, Notre Dame always seems to have one of the best defenses in the country, and they send quite a few players to the NFL. This year, the Irish have a pair of linebackers who are headed to the league, and I'm a big fan of both of them. Marist Liufau is a guy who I really liked when I turned on the tape. A player who has an extremely high motor at the linebacker position. See in this video why I think he can be a really solid player in the NFL. But hey guys, if you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Leave a comment and let me know which players you guys would like to see me talk about in the next video. But without further ado, let's take a closer look at Marist Liufau. When you look at the numbers for Liufau over the last 2 seasons, they aren't going to jump off the page necessarily, but the tape is going to show you some crazy high upside. In 2022, Liufau finished with 52 total tackles, 1 pass deflections, and half a sack. Nothing super crazy, and his 2023 season was a little bit less productive. He finished with 44 total tackles, 3 sacks, a forced fumble, and a pass deflection. Once again, the numbers aren't crazy, but his tape is really solid, and I think he has some really high potential in the league. Liufau is a player who plays with an exceptionally high motor. He plays with his hair on fire, and he comes downhill and blitzes very well. He doesn't give up on the play, he moves really well, and he has some very nice abilities as a downhill blitzer, and I love what he can do in those areas, rushing the passer, and he's got great timing. Another area he did really well was coverage, especially in the shallow areas. He has the upside to be a zone coverage guy, and he played well in underneath shallow coverage. He's a smart player and did a good job in these areas. He also showed the willingness to line up nearly everywhere for the Irish's defensive front. Whether it was as a middle linebacker or an outside linebacker, I think he could play nearly everywhere in the front 7, and I like what he can do in those areas. I thought he did well as a coverage player, and I think he can be a versatile weapon in the league due to both his coverage and blitzing abilities. Athletically, it is a catch-22 with Liufau. When you look at the combine numbers, they are going to tell you that he's not very athletic, and he didn't test very well whatsoever. But when I watched his tape, I saw quite the opposite. I thought he had really great quickness and the ability to move sideline to sideline. The testing numbers do concern me because the tape doesn't show that at all. At the end of the day, I judge a player based off the tape, not necessarily the combine numbers, but I am going to be very interesting to see how it translates. As a run defender, Liufau concerns me for a few different reasons. For one, he takes some very poor angles when coming downhill to defend the run. When he would join the pile and try and get in on the play, he would overextend, it seemed like almost every time. He had so many missed tackles in the open field, and I was really disappointed with that. Another reason he disappointed in run defense was that he played with higher pads, and when met with blockers, he really struggled and was pushed off his balance. He gets pushed back, and he has some underwhelming abilities as a tackler and a run defender, which do cause concerns. Liufau is a player who I struggle with, because the tape shows me some really interesting things in coverage, as a run defender, as a blitzer, but the combine numbers concern me, and the missed tackles are not ideal either. His play speed isn't his testing speed, and his abilities as a blitzer and coverage make him a my guy in this class. But he is still my number 9 linebacker in the draft. The concerns are there, but I also think the upside is there with him too, and if he falls to the right system, he could be a very solid NFL player. Liufau is very versatile. He has the coverage versatility to play both inside and outside as a linebacker. He has the blitzing ability there as well. If I was an NFL team that was in need of a linebacker, I would draft Liufau to play him as an outside linebacker in a 4-3 scheme. That way he can play in some coverage abilities, cover shallow, but I think he can be dialed up as a blitzer in those areas as well, and I think that's where you're going to get the most out of him in the league. While it is a lofty comparison, Liufau reminds me a lot of Darius Leonard coming out of school. Many people had some concerns about the athletic tools that Leonard had, but the coverage abilities were apparent, and while Liufau has some athletic concerns, his coverage abilities and size are nearly identical to Leonard's coming out of South Carolina State. Leonard with Indianapolis ended up being one of the best linebackers in the league, and I'm not saying Liufau will be that, but I think the upside is really there. Marist Liufau plays with his hair on fire. He has a high motor, he can cover, he's versatile, and he has a lot of tools that I really value. I think he is definitely an underrated prospect, and ultimately, I believe Liufau will be a 4th round pick in the 2024 NFL Draft.